Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of What's Going On in This Graph, brought to you by the New York Times and me, Mr. Poley. So today, I'm not going to go through too much with you guys, but I did want to explain how this graph works a little bit, just because it's a little different than what we've looked at before. Right, in our previous assignments, I have given you guys a screenshot of the graph, and it's basically just a picture for you to look at of the graph. But for the assignment today, I gave you a link to an article, which I have on the screen behind me, and you have to go to the article to view the graphs because they are slightly interactive to give us a better idea of what is really going on here. So I just wanted to try to explain the graph a little bit and how it works to give you guys a better idea of what it's all about. But then it will be up to you to go through the process of what you notice, what you wonder, and giving a catchy headline that kind of gives a big idea of the graph. Okay, so I'm going to minimize myself here, down into the corner, in the corner now. Okay, and so as you can see, here is a graph which at first glance looks like a mess. I agree. There are actually 15 separate line graphs on this one graph. So it is very jumbled, especially in the beginning over here, right? All these graphs are starting at the same point. This graph shows, as it says at the top, bus ridership among the 15 largest transit agencies. And these are specifically in the US. So you'll see this top one is San Francisco. We have Seattle. Down here, San Diego, Philadelphia, Boston, Washington, D.C., New Jersey, Pittsburgh. I know New York City's in here somewhere. Honolulu, Denver. There's New York City, Houston, San Antonio, Chicago, and Los Angeles. Okay, I think those should have been the 15 unless I missed one somehow, but there are 15 cities in here. And this graph is comparing their bus ridership increase or decrease since 2000. I thought it was supposed to be from 2009 to 2019, but that was something else I was looking at. My bad. So this is from 2010 to where we are currently in 2020. Okay, so the reason they all start at 0 in 2010 is because that's the baseline. And you can see the baseline across the middle of the screen, right? That solid gray line, that horizontal line that just goes straight across, that is the baseline, meaning there has been, if any line is at that baseline at any given time, that means there has been no change in bus ridership since 2010, since 2010. So they all do start at 0%, but that doesn't mean they have the same amount of bus riders, right? That's just the baseline for a comparison. So as you go on, if you will just follow, Washington, D.C. right here, you'll see where I have the cursor right now. That shows that Washington, D.C. ridership rose 10% since 2010. And if you look down here, that's a little after 2012. So maybe this point right here is right around February or March of 2012. So in a little over 2 years in Washington, D.C., bus ridership rose 10%. But you can see, since I'm on the Washington, D.C. line, you can see how bus ridership continued from there. So it kind of went up and down a little bit. It's kind of hard to follow one particular graph here. But once we got here, which was maybe halfway through 2014, somewhere around June 2014, where bus ridership rose 11%, what started to happen now? That's right, it started to drop. So after June of 2014, bus ridership in Washington, D.C. began to fall. And right here, which it looks like it's right at the start of 2016, bus ridership was only at a 3% increase since 2010. So since the beginning, since that baseline, it has increased. But from 2014, where it was, it has decreased. Right? And you'll see if you keep following this, it hits the baseline again, and it goes under the baseline. So that means since 2010, since this data was being compiled, bus ridership has fallen in Washington, D.C. And as you can see, many other cities as well. So there's Washington, D.C. again. We found that line. I'd say here we are right around the end of 2018, beginning of 2019, since we're about halfway between 2018 and 2020. And here, since 2010, bus ridership has fallen 4%. You'll see Washington, D.C. does work its way back up almost to the original baseline. I know it's a little harder to see right at the end here, but Washington, D.C. did just about make it back to baseline. So overall for Washington, D.C. at least, and that was just a random city that I picked, but overall from 2010 to 2020, it has only seen a very small decrease in bus ridership, as you can see for where that line ends up almost back at the baseline. But in the middle of all that, in those 10 years, it has really fluctuated. It started going up, and then it fell, and now it looks like it's trending back upwards again. Okay, and you can look at that for any city in here. So right there, Boston, that's an interesting one, right? From 2010, it started to rise. Right around a little into 2012, closer to 2013, it started going down again. At 2014, it was back to baseline, right around where it was in 2010, and then it spiked. Right from 2014 into 2015, at some point, it spiked over 10% increase. You can see that peak in the middle there. So that makes me wonder what caused that spike, because that looks like a very rapid spike compared to what was happening. But then ever since that peak, what's happened? Bus ridership in Boston has dropped. Right from that peak, now we're going down, down, down. We're at 7% decrease since 2010. 8% decrease since 2010. And right at the end here, 2020, we're still at a 7% decrease since 2010. Boston does look like it's trying to work its way back up towards the baseline, but it just really makes you think, what's going on to make bus ridership fluctuate so much like this? Right? And again, just take some time to see what's going on in a lot of other cities. New York City here looks like it's just been a somewhat steady decline. Right? But every city here is different, but it's really interesting if you take a look. Los Angeles, man, that is a huge decline. Very steady decline, and it's down over 20%. Close to 2020, we're down 25% bus ridership since 2010. What's causing that? Do you guys know? Because I don't. Okay, but again, the point of this video was just to give you a better idea of how to read these graphs, how to make sense of them, and just to understand the interactive part of them. Okay, and again, if you scroll down like I explained in the assignment, here's a smaller graph, still in the same time frame, from 2010 to 2020, but looking at 4 different cities: Atlanta, Miami, Minneapolis, and Portland. So again, it's just really interesting, in my opinion anyways, to see how the individual cities have changed over the years. And again, to make you think, what's going on here, right? Miami starts to go up a lot. Well, maybe not too much, but in 2014, there's a 9% increase in bus ridership since 2010. You get down to 2020, look at that. That's an over 30% decrease now since 2010. So since 2014, that's an almost 40% decrease. That is huge. There's got to be a reason for that, I'd have to imagine. Okay, and maybe if you read some more of this article, it could give you some insight into that. But that's for you guys to think about and to try to figure out. Okay, so hopefully that helps clear some things up. Again, it's up to you guys to go through the same process that we've been working with. Things you notice, at least 2, hopefully more. Things you wonder, again, at least 2, but hopefully more. And then come up with a catchy headline. Something different than what is already here, please. Okay, and the idea of this is just to really try to make sense of what it is we're looking at. Right? We're trying to study this data here. What's it all about? What's going on? What does it mean? Okay, that's what statisticians really try to do, and that's really the point of this class. So please do your best with this. Go through that process, and as always, there are some critical thinking questions at the end. So do your best with this, and as always, I am available for help. Okay, specifically, the last one this week will be Friday at 2:30 until 4 on Zoom, which you can find that link on Google Classroom. But also, if you need help at other times, I am very much available. So please let me know. I'm here for you guys. I want to help. Let me know. Okay, and do your best. Thinking caps on. Ready, set, go.